Welcome back to the deep dive. And I really hope you're sitting down for this one.
Or at least if you're driving, maybe pull over. Or just grip the steering wheel a little tighter.
Yeah, exactly. Because we are wading into some seriously heavy waters today. We are tackling the beast that is Sorrow and Starlight.
Oh, man.
Right. That is book 8 of 12, Zodiac Academy, by Peckham and Susanne Valenti. And look, if you're a fan of this series, if you've been following the Vega twins from the very beginning, you know exactly where we're picking up.
And you know exactly how much it hurts.
It hurts so much.
It really is arguably the darkest point in the entire saga. Like, in narrative structure terms, this is the classic all hope is lost moment.
Right.
But instead of lasting for a chapter or two, it's stretched out over an entire massive novel. It is the literary equivalent of holding your breath underwater for 20 minutes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we are talking about the immediate aftermath of a massive, devastating defeat. Just think about where we left off in the previous book.
Right. The bad guys are completely in charge.
Lionel Lecrox, the Dragon King, and that terrifying shadow Princess Lavinia, they are in power. They won. And the good guys.
Yeah.
They are scattered, broken, or in some heartbreaking cases, which we will definitely get to later, presumed dead. It is literally the darkest timeline.
It really is. And to fully understand Sorrow and Starlight, you have to understand that this isn't just a simple plot bridge to the finale.
Definitely not.
This isn't just watching the characters walk from point A to point B. This book is a massive deep dive exploration of grief. It's about trauma and that desperate clawing struggle to find hope when literally every single light has been snuffed out. It's a character study in extreme resilience.
And when we say massive, we really mean massive. I was reading the author's note before we started recording, and they literally refer to this book as a girthy Brenda.
A girthy Brenda, that is incredibly descriptive.
I know, right? That is a direct quote. It is over 380,000 words. That is just a staggering amount of words. For context, most standard novels are maybe 80,000 or 90,000 words.
Yeah, around there.
So this is basically 4 books standing on each other's shoulders in a trench coat. It's a tome. You could use the physical paperback as a weapon in a pinch.
It's an epic in the truest sense of the word. But what's really fascinating to me is that despite the sheer length, the core themes are actually very tightly focused.
It's all about duality.
Exactly. You have the title right there, Sorrow and Starlight. Despair versus hope. The crushing weight of fate versus the sheer will to change it. Every single character, no matter where they are on the map right now, is wrestling with these two opposing forces. It's all about how sorrow hollows you out, but Starlight can fill that void.
So our mission for this deep dive today is to unpack all of that. We're going to trace how the Vega twins, Tori and Darcy, managed to pull themselves out of the absolute gutter to reclaim their power.
It's a long climb back up.
It really is. And we're also going to get into the lore because finally we get some answers about this Imperial Star and the broken promise that has just been haunting the narrative for ages.
Which has been teasing us for books now. It's the primary engine driving the whole curse.
Exactly. And we're going to talk about how they finally managed to break that curse that has been ruining their bloodline's lives.
And we should probably just warn everyone right now, we are going to spoil absolutely everything in this book.
Oh yeah, full spoilers ahead.
We're getting deep into the details, so if you haven't read it yet, go read it, though it'll take you a while, and then come back. Or if you just want to know what happens without the emotional devastation of reading it firsthand, just stay right here.
Stay with us. Okay, let's start at the absolute bottom. Section 1, the depths of despair.
Yeah.
Because when we open this book, things are unspeakably bleak for Darcy Vega.
Bleak is almost an understatement. Darcy isn't just physically separated from the rest of the group. She is enduring a full-on psychological horror story.
And she's hiding out in the mountains.
Right, physically isolated. But the real threat isn't the cold or the starvation. It's inside her own head.
The Shadow Beast. For listeners who might need a quick refresher on the magic system here, Darcy is a phoenix, which represents fire and light. But Lavinia, the villain, cursed her. So what does that actually mean for her day-to-day existence in this book?
It's essentially a parasitic relationship. Lavinia grafted a shattered entity directly onto Darcy's soul. And the text describes it so viscerally, it takes the form of this monstrous creature within her mind. It has this intense bloodlust that just demands carnage all the time. Darcy is literally holding onto her own sanity by a thread. Every single time she tries to use her natural magic, the beast tries to take the wheel.
That is just terrifying. It's straight up body horror.
It really is. Imagine being a helpless passenger in your own body. You want to reach for a glass of water, but your hand wants to reach for a knife. That is the level of intrusion she is dealing with every second. She has to stay awake, she has to stay vigilant, because if she slips even a little, the beast takes over her motor control.
There's this harrowing internal monologue she has where she feels like her own magic, her phoenix fire, her air element, everything is just silent.
Yeah.
She says, it feels like her magic lay quiet inside me, not responding to my plea like it no longer belonged to me at all. That is so terrifying. Because for a fae in Solaria, losing your magic is like losing a limb. Or your eyes.
Honestly, it's worse than that. It's losing your core self-identity. She is terrified that she is actually becoming a monster. And remember, she's deeply haunted by the memory of attacking her best friend, Geraldine, in the previous battle.
God, that guilt.
That guilt is eating her alive. She constantly wonders if she's already gone, if Darcy Vega is just a fading memory and she's just a vessel for this dark beast now. That internal isolation is so much colder than the snow on the mountains where she's hiding.
And that desperation leads to this incredibly cinematic scene at the lake. She finds this dark lake that was created by a fallen star because, of course, stars are just falling all over the place in this war.
Right, the whole landscape is scarred by it.
And she's there trying to frantically wash the blood off her hands. It's very much giving out damn spot, isn't it?
It is profound Shakespearean imagery right there. She feels permanently stained by what the beast made her do. She explicitly says, I was two opposing creatures housed within one body. She's trying to scrub away her sins, but the stain is entirely internal.
Yeah.
But this is exactly where the theme of Starlight pierces through the sorrow. In the depths of this freezing dark lake, she suddenly sees a silver light.
This was the exact moment I started tearing up.
Right.
I'm not going to lie. The light forms these wings in the water, and then it becomes a sort of mirror or a window. And looking back at her, she sees her parents, Hale and Marissa Vega.
And this isn't just a hallucination brought on by hypothermia or her immense grief. Marissa explicitly explains it as a memory of the future. They're essentially speaking across time to her.
Wow.
It's a literal miracle born of absolute desperation. The text really implies that the stars allowed this breach in time because Darcy was at her absolute lowest possible point. It's the universe finally throwing her a lifeline.
And the interaction itself is just so deeply touching. Darcy has grown up completely without them, right? She's had to figure this all out on her own since finding out she was fae. And suddenly, she's face to face with her dad, the legendary Savage King.
Right, the guy everyone fears.
And she expects him to be well savage.
But he's not. Or rather, he's not only that. There's a really beautiful, quiet observation Darcy makes here. She notes that the love she feels radiating from Hale feels remarkably similar to the love she felt from Hamish Geraldine's dad.
Oh, I loved that part.
It's that realization that she did actually have father figures. She did experience that kind of fierce protective love, even if she didn't fully recognize it at the time. It completely humanizes the terrifying legend of the Savage King and grounds him as just a dad who loves his daughter.
It grounds the whole mythology of this series. We hear so much about Hale Vega, the brutal warrior, the king who killed hundreds. But here, he's just a father trying to comfort his terrified, freezing daughter across the veil of time.
Exactly, and the crucial advice Hale gives her is the massive turning point for her entire character arc in this book, because up until this exact moment, she's been desperately trying to suppress the shadow beast. She's trying to cage it, lock it away in the darkest corner of her mind. She thinks the only way to remain Darcy is to somehow kill the beast.
Right. And Hale just completely flips the script on her.
He does. He tells her point blank, harness this darkness. Don't fight it, control it. He says you must harness this darkness that lives in you. It's a massive shift from rejection to integration.
Yeah.
He's telling her that she can't ever just go back to being the innocent girl she was. She has to accept that she is now a creature of both light and shadow. If she tries to be only light, she'll simply break.
Which is such a deeply profound lesson for life in general, honestly.
Yeah.
Embracing the ugly parts of yourself in order to survive. It's very Jungian, right? Dealing with the shadow self.
It is entirely Jungian. You cannot destroy your shadow without destroying the object that casts it. You have to integrate it. Darcy has to learn that the shadow isn't just a vile curse. It's a potent weapon. And if she's going to defeat Lavinia, who is the absolute master of shadows, she needs that weapon. She essentially needs to become a monster to fight the monster, but a monster with a strong moral compass.
That is such a cool thematic concept. But let's pivot to her twin sister, Tori. Because while Darcy is fighting a literal monster inside her own body, Tori is dealing with a completely different kind of monster.
The monster of the void.
Yeah. Tori is currently at the rebel camp on Mount Lyra. And while Darcy is hyperactive, running, hiding, fighting these intense internal battles, Tori is just numb. She is deeply grieving Darius, who died at the end of the last book.
And the description of her mental state is just agonizing to read. She describes it as the kind of emptiness that came after intense trauma. She's purely functioning on rage and numbness. She's completely dissociated from reality.
Dissociation is the mind's ultimate way of protecting itself from pain that is just too great to bear. The bond she had with Darius wasn't just a standard romantic relationship, it was heavily magical. It was an Elysian mate bond.
Right, the highest tier of bond.
When he died, a literal part of her soul was ripped out. So her brain just pulled the plug on all her emotions to keep her breathing.
And all the other characters notice this, right? Caleb and Seth try desperately to reach her, but she's just a solid wall of ice.
It's super disturbing for them. They know Tori as the fiery, impulsive, deeply angry twin. Seeing her this intensely cold, this eerily calculated grain feels incredibly wrong. It feels like the fire has actually gone out of the world entirely. She focuses entirely on the rebellion's mission maps. Strategies kill counts, because if she stops for 1 second to actually feel again, she genuinely believes she'll die.
And she's walking around carrying that Imperial Star amulet right around her neck.
Which she absolutely hates.
She loathes it with a passion.
She feels like it completely failed them. It's this seemingly useless ancient artifact that promised them the power to win and delivered nothing but death and ruin. She literally calls it a burden.
It heavily represents the failure of hope for her. She feels completely abandoned by the stars themselves. While Darcy is actively fighting to save her own soul, Tori is fighting the crushing reality of waking up in a world without her mate. It's a really stark contrast between the two sisters' journeys through immense grief. Darcy is this hot, panicked, frantic struggle, while Tori is just cold, hollow, endless endurance. And that amulet is a constant physical weight, a reminder of everything she couldn't stop from happening.
But the world doesn't stop spinning for their grief, does it? Because the bad guys are incredibly busy. Let's talk about the regime. Lionel Acrax.
Oh, King Lionel. Or, as he so humbly calls himself, the Dragon King.
This guy is so intensely delusional, it's almost funny if he wasn't so violently dangerous. He truly deep down believes he's the good guy in this story.
And that's exactly what makes him such a compelling villain. He's not just twirling a mustache for no reason, well, metaphorically, he kind of is. But in his own twisted mind, he is bringing education and order to Solaria. He genuinely believes he is purifying the Fae race. He talks constantly about eliminating the lesser orders to breed a pure, invincible army.
I mean, it's literal eugenics.
It is eugenics, plain and simple, just dressed up in this grandiose language of restoring glory. He honestly believes that by systematically stripping rights away from werewolves, sirens, and changelings, he is strengthening the magical bloodlines overall. It's a terrifying ideology, specifically because we've seen it play out in our own real-world history. He views himself as a misunderstood savior, which in his mind completely justifies every single atrocity he commits.
But the way he actually goes about it, the authors Peckham and Valenti, they somehow manage to inject this biting satire into it. I mean, he renames his new secret police the King's United Nebular Task Force.
You really have to spell that one out to fully get the joke.
Yeah, KUNTFTS. The rebels just call them the KUNTS.
It is very juvenile, and yet it is perfectly fitting for the tone of the specific resistance. It strips the imposing fear away from the oppressor by openly mocking them. It's a classic real-world tool of rebellion. If you can manage to laugh at the brutal dictator, he inherently loses some of his psychological power over you.
It totally reminds me of how people mock totalitarian leaders in real life. If you turn them into a pathetic clown, they aren't an untouchable god anymore.
Exactly. And speaking of stripping away fear, the propaganda war playing out in this book is just hilarious. Lionel is using the Atlas, which is basically their version of Facebook or the internet, to issue these completely fake horoscopes to control the population.
It's literal social media warfare.
It is. He's issuing state-sanctioned horoscopes. Yeah. Things like the stars say you should stay indoors and obey the king today. It's a gross manipulation of their core faith. The Fae deeply rely on the stars for life guidance, and Lionel is essentially writing fake news directly from God.
The rebels completely hijack it. Brian Washer, the guy with the teeny-weeny complex.
Oh, Brian.
He manages to hack in and starts writing rebel horoscopes. There's this great bit early on where Lionel is reading his daily horoscope, and it tells him to expect a sexual connection because of a Venus alignment or something.
Meanwhile, the actual rebel horoscope for Aries, which is Lionel's sign, is explicitly warning of a fiery experience, which is a very thinly veiled threat that the rebellion is going to burn his palace down.
And Lyle completely misses the subtext. He's preening in the mirror thinking he's about to get lucky, while the rebels are literally outside lighting matches.
It's fantastic information warfare, but done with that signature chaotic Zodiac Academy humor. It beautifully breaks the crushing tension of the grief we were just talking about with the twins. It shows that even in the absolute darkest timeline, people still find ways to be petty and funny.
It really does. And we definitely have to talk about the resistance itself.
Yeah.
Because they formally call themselves Undercover ASS.
Again, with the acronyms, the authors just love a highly inappropriate acronym.
I love it so much. You got the heirs, Caleb, Seth, and Max, trying to subtly navigate their parents, who are all high-ranking counselors in Lionel's regime and deeply suspicious of their kids. They're playing this incredibly dangerous double game every day. And then you've got Geraldine Groose rallying the rebel troops with her absolutely chaotic motivational speeches.
Geraldine really shines in this book. She is the absolute glue holding the rebellion's morale together. She speaks in this totally bizarre, archaic, convoluted way that only she understands. She's constantly talking about scoundrels and gherkin lovers, but beneath all that absurdity is a fierce, completely unwavering loyalty. Yeah. She is the beating heart of the rebellion. She absolutely refuses to let anyone give up.
She's the character you kind of laugh at in book 1, but by book 8 you would literally die for her.
100%. She perfectly embodies the unyielding spirit of the resistance. It's not about being cool or having the most powerful magic. It's simply about showing up and refusing to bow.
And then we have Tyler running the Daily Solaria. They are doing real dangerous journalism. There's a massive scoop they released where they somehow broadcast memories showing Darcy and Orion being actively tortured and trapped in cages. They expose Lionel's hidden crimes directly to the general public.
And that is a critical turning point. It directly counters the state's false narrative. Lionel is desperately trying to present a polished, benevolent image to keep people docile. And the Daily Solaria is aggressively showing the ugly truth, the torture, the cages, the sheer cruelty. It shifts the public sentiment in a huge way. It wakes the ordinary people up. It visually shows the populace that their supposed king is actually just a sadistic jailer.
There's a specific scene in a classroom at the academy that really grounds how awful this regime is. Milton, a student, describes the suffocating atmosphere at Zodiac Academy now. Professor Highspeld is teaching this incredibly biased, rewritten history that discriminates against lesser orders.
This scene is so subtly important for the world building. It perfectly demonstrates how a fascist regime indoctrinates the youth. Highspell is actively humiliating students, twisting ancient facts about the constellations to supposedly prove that some magical orders are naturally inferior to others. The tension in that room, you can feel students are terrified to speak a single word, just desperately waiting for the rebels to come save them. It drastically raises the stakes.
Yeah, it does.
It reminds us that this whole war isn't just about the Vega twins getting their fancy crowns back. It's about every single student living in daily fear of saying the wrong thing and just disappearing in the night.
It's the classic banality of evil. It's not just massive, fiery battles. It's the quiet, stifling terror in a Tuesday morning classroom.
Exactly. And that quiet terror is exactly what makes the armed rebellion so morally necessary.
So we have a good grasp on the emotional state. We have the grim political state. Now we really need to get into the magic system because the lore drops and Sorrow and Starlight are incredibly heavy. We finally learn the truth about the Imperial Star and the Broken Promise.
This is the central mystery that has been hanging ominously over the entire series. What actually is this artifact? And we learn it's a rough, unhewn piece of a literal fallen star named Clydinius.
And normally the stars in this specific universe are completely neutral.
Yeah.
Right? They just watch from above. They don't actively interfere with mortal affairs.
Precisely. They are cosmic observers. Fate is supposed to be a carefully maintained balance, but Clydinius was a massive exception. The cosmic experts in the book, well, actually the stars themselves, speaking directly to the twins, they explain that Clydinius deeply wanted to be a god. He wanted to physically walk among the Fae.
That is such a terrifying concept, a celestial body with a massive ego.
A star with boundless ambition. He looked down and felt the Fae were foolishly wasting their magical gifts. He wanted to come down and rule over them. And that sinister desire is what leads to the ancestral curse. The twins managed to dive into these ancient memories via a memory crystal and a connection to the star itself. They learned that their ancient ancestor, Elvia Vega, made a desperate deal with Clydinius for power.
Okay, let's break this specific deal down. Elvia Vega, the great ancestor. Why on earth did she do it?
She was entirely desperate. Her people were being brutally slaughtered in a massive war ages ago. She needed a weapon to save them from extinction. So she did the unthinkable and called down a literal star. She made a binding pact. Give me the celestial power to save my people, and in return I will let you rule Solaria through my royal bloodline.
But she didn't end up paying the bill.
She did not. Once she had secured the power, the legendary phoenix fire, the immense elemental magic, she suddenly realized that Clydenius was a cruel tyrant. He was purely evil, so she completely reneged on the deal. She used his own granted power against him to trap his essence in that crystal in the star metal of the amulet.
So she basically stole god-tier power but didn't pay the cosmic price.
Exactly. She scammed a star. And the universe always demands a balanced ledger. That's the literal broken promise. The entire Vega bloodline has been horribly cursed ever since because they're essentially harboring stolen celestial power.
That completely recontextualizes the events of the whole series. The infamous Vega curse. The reason they always die tragically young, the reason their family has such immense tragedy,
Right.
It's not just spectacularly bad luck.
No, not at all. It's the universe acting as a ruthless debt collector. It's the stars aggressively trying to repossess the magic that was stolen from one of their own. Every single tragedy the Vega family faces is just the interest being paid on that massive unpaid cosmic loan.
That is genuinely mind-blowing. So the entire Vega dynasty, all that raw power, all that Savage King legacy we hear about, it's all built on a massive lie.
It's built entirely on a stolen debt, and that is exactly why their bloodline is so steeped in endless sorrow.
So to actually win this current war, Tori and Darcy realize they have to fix this ancient wrong. They have to finally keep the promise, even if it means losing their biggest magical advantage. But wait, before we get to them fixing it, there's another huge piece of lore introduced here. Ether.
Yes, the elusive fifth element.
Tori manages to find this creepy black book all about ether. What exactly is it in the context of this world?
It's described as the true fifth element. Unlike fire, air, water, and earth, which are all strictly bound by the stars and the rules of fate, ether is completely wild. It is fundamentally free. It's entirely untouched by the rigid cosmic system.
That feels incredibly significant for their situation. If the whole game is rigged by the stars, you desperately need a weapon that the stars don't have any control over.
Exactly. It purely represents agency. It represents the ability to break the deterministic cycle. It's a raw power source that exists entirely outside of the celestial hierarchy. Now, it's extremely dangerous. It can completely consume you if you aren't careful, but it's their only true shot at actual freedom.
It's the ultimate chaos factor.
Yes, it is. If the stars represent strict order, ether represents pure chaos. And sometimes you just need a little bit of chaos to break a deeply rigged system.
Okay, so the stage is fully set. We have the heavy lore, we have the emotional motivation. Now we get the convergence, Section 4. Everything violently comes to a head at Zodiac Academy.
The rebels realize the Academy is under a massive siege by Lavinia's monsters, and this serves as the huge rallying moment for everyone. Geraldine gives that iconic speech.
Oh, the scoundrels and gherkin lovers speech. I just have to read the little part of it because it captures her chaotic energy so perfectly. She stands up and says, "We must rally together. We shall forge ahead and begin the battle as we await the arrival of the army." It's completely nonsensical from a tactical standpoint, but it's just so inspiring.
It totally cuts through the paralyzing fear. And so the heirs, the twins who have finally managed to regroup with everyone, they all head straight into the battle. And we get this massively cinematic moment. The return of the true queens.
Describe it for us, because this is the absolute stand-up and cheer moment of the book.
So dawn is just breaking over the horizon. The Academy is in absolute bloody chaos. The students fighting are rapidly losing hope. And suddenly, out of nowhere, two massive blazing phoenixes fly directly over the campus. Just pure fire and power illuminating the sky. The terrified students look up and see the true queens have returned. It's the undeniable visual confirmation that hope isn't dead. It's the triumphant return of the legitimate rulers.
It's honestly like Return of the Jedi meets Game of Thrones.
It's an incredible rush to read. But the biggest shocker, the thing that I think literally broke the internet when this book first came out, is Darius.
Darius A. Crux returns.
He was dead. He was very, very dead.
He was completely beyond the veil.
He was gone.
How does that even happen? Just how?
It's strongly implied that Tori managed to use the raw power of the Imperial Star combined with the wild chaos of the ether. She essentially made a new deal, or rather she violently utilized that stolen ancestral power to rip him back into the living world. The text vividly describes him just stepping through the magical barrier like it was any other door.
That part gave me literal chills, just stepping casually through death itself like it's a curtain. But it wasn't a clean, pretty resurrection, was it?
No, not at all. It wasn't some sparkly Disney magic. It was horribly visceral. The descriptions are super bloody and raw. Darius was actually finding a quiet peace on the other side. He was finally ready to let go of the war. Being violently pulled back into his body was agonizing. It was fundamentally unnatural.
And their reunion on the battlefield.
It is intensely overwhelming. They crash into each other amidst the fighting. The text says their bond is destructive enough to defy death itself. It's definitely not a soft, gentle, romantic reunion. It's ferocious. It's two sides of a massive magnet slamming violently back together. It's pure passion and desperate relief and total disbelief all mixed together. They just cling to each other because they both know exactly how fragile the second chance is. They literally look death in the face and scream, "Not today."
And then on the flip side of that chaotic energy, we have Darcy and Orion.
Yeah.
Their big reunion is much quieter, but honestly just as intense.
It's very grounded in their shared trauma. They were both brutally tortured by Lavinia. They both have deep, lasting scars, both physical and mental. Orion was trapped helplessly in a cage for a huge chunk of this story.
And when Darcy finally rescues him, there's a distinct physical change in him. His eyes.
Yes, the silver rings appear in his eyes. It permanently marks him as Darcy's Elysian mate.
Which is a really big deal in this universe.
Yeah.
It's not just a casual we're dating now kind of thing.
No, an Elysian mate bond is exceptionally rare. It's formally star-sanctioned. It means the stars themselves have actively blessed this specific union to perfectly balance the light and the dark within them. It signifies that Darcy has finally fully accepted her own duality. She's wielding her dark shadow powers right alongside her bright phoenix fire. She's not trying to suppress the boost anymore. She's partnering with it, and Orion is the perfect grounding anchor for that balance.
It perfectly balances the violent, chaotic energy of Tori and Darius. One couple is fire and earth, just explosive and grounding. The other is air and, well, darker air.
Air and shadow. Darcy and Orion are all about flow, about constant movement. They deeply understand each other's inherent darkness in a way that literally no one else can.
So everyone is finally back together, the band is back together, but they still have to actually deal with the looming curse. They're at the climax of the book now, section 5, the Cave of the Star.
This is where the ultimate choice has to happen. This is their Frodo at Mount Doom moment. They find this hidden cavern with an ancient Zodiac wheel door. And they have to make a brutal decision. Do we keep using the Imperial Star to fight Lionel? Because it's essentially a magical nuclear weapon at their disposal. Or do we give the power back to the Earth?
And if they give it back, they completely lose that massive power. They might end up completely defenseless against the Dragon King's army.
But if they selfishly keep it, the ancient curse continues. The sorrow continues to plague their family. They just pass the massive cosmic debt to the next generation of Vegas. It's the classic hero's dilemma: power or righteousness. Short-term military gain or long-term spiritual healing.
And they ultimately choose righteousness.
They do. They use the ancient power word creatia, which means creation. They willingly place the star back into the earth. They return the stolen power to the universe.
And what immediately happens?
The curse is instantly broken. The generational debt is finally paid in full, but the cost is immediate and terrifying. They are totally trapped inside that cavern. Their magic, at least momentarily, is completely gone or just inaccessible to them. They're entirely vulnerable.
But wait, we have to talk about Lavinia before the end.
Yeah.
The Shadow Princess.
Yeah.
Because she is absolutely pissed about this.
She is beyond furious. Her entire control over Darcy relied on that dark curse being active. When the curse breaks, she completely loses her favorite puppet, so she comes for them with everything she has.
And Darcy pulls out a very specific spell to fight her. One she learned from reading Queen Avalon's secret book, but she cleverly modifies it on the fly. This is where her accepting and harnessing the darkness really pays off.
Yes. The chant she uses is Umbras constringo into pessor, pelem tuam claudo fores.
Which roughly translates to what?
It means I bind the shadows within. I close the doors against your skin. She successfully traps Lavinia inside a burning dome of phoenix fire. But the real genius key is the internal binding. She traps the shadow magic inside Lavinia's own body.
That is just chef's kiss poetic justice.
It really is. Lavinia spent her whole life using shadows to violently enslave others, and now she is permanently bound by her own dark element, contained entirely by the bright fire she constantly tried to extinguish. Darcy uses her own intimate knowledge of the shadow to completely outsmart the Master of Shadows.
That is incredibly satisfying to read. But even with Lavinia dealt with, the heroes quickly realize they can't actually hold the Palace of Souls just yet. Lionel is still out there with a massive intact army. They can't just move in and claim the throne today.
Right, it's a necessary tactical retreat. They cast a massive warding spell to completely seal the palace doors. If they can't safely have it yet, Lionel definitely can't have it either.
And they leave a brilliant parting symbol, a massive flaming phoenix bird magically perched on the roof of the palace.
It's a glorious mark of defiance. It loudly tells the entire world, we are not dead, we are watching you, and we will absolutely be back to finish this.
Which neatly brings us to the outro, the immediate aftermath. They've technically won a huge battle. Darius is miraculously alive. The generational curse is broken. The core team is finally reunited.
But the larger war isn't over by a long shot. Lionel and Lavinia are both still alive. They are definitely still plotting their revenge.
And the cliffhanger? Oh my God, the cliffhanger. The twins are literally stuck inside that star cave.
The authors even hilariously reference Moana in their end note, you know, that scene where she's stuck inside the cave with Maui. But there's definitely no handy little scramble hole for the twins to escape through here.
So they're just trapped underground. And there's this incredibly ominous prophecy dropped right at the very end. Beware the threaded mines of blood and chaos.
It strongly suggests that by forcefully bringing Darius back from the dead, by actively tampering with death and the star's design, they might have inadvertently unleashed something else entirely.
The stars explicitly warned them earlier that Cladinius deeply wanted to be a reigning god. Now that his raw power is released back into the earth, did they just inadvertently give him exactly what he always wanted?
That is the big provocative question moving forward. Did they actually fix the broken world, or did they just break it in a totally new, much more dangerous way? The cosmic balance has definitely shifted, but we really don't know what this terrifying new balance looks like yet.
Man, my head is just spinning. What an absolutely massive book. What a deep dive today.
It's a true masterclass in raising the narrative stakes, just when you confidently think they can't possibly get any higher.
Absolutely. Well, listeners, you know what you need to do now. Take some serious time to process all of this, mull over that terrifying final prophecy, and definitely join us next time when we dive into the grand conclusion of this epic series. You really won't want to miss it.
Until then, keep your eyes on the stars.
We will see you next time.